I'd like to begin by introducing everyone, and we'll ask each of you to share a little bit more about your background, along with a current initiative or project that you're working on. So let's start with Melissa Hill, AVP of Data and Analytics for American Family Insurance Claim Services.
Thank you, Robin. I'm glad to be here. And let's say I started claims 25 years plus ago. I started out as a claims trainee. I used to drive a car, have a paper map, highlight my little route because we didn't have Google, and climbed on roofs, wrote paper estimates. And so we've evolved in this 25 plus years. And I've always stayed in claims, right, because I love claims. And I took this position with American Family to take, what I've learned over all these years and turn it into, the best customer experience we can have by creating, a data warehouse, understanding the AI, how do we capture the data, all things data, right? That's what we're trying to build and get into more of a cloud space. So I started about 11 months ago, and we've taken over most of the company claims data, and at this point we're trying to ingest a lot of it into a Google Cloud platform and build it out so that we can start using some of the more AI augmented claim handling, all that fun stuff that everybody talks about that we've been trying to do, but is hard to do, right? Especially with a legacy company. So it's been a fun 11 months, and I'm looking forward to the next year or so when we build out, some really good AI technology.
Great. And I think, we'll learn more as you talk about, how you're focused on that customer journey and, how you have to work with demographics anywhere from, millennials to those that are retired. So very much looking forward to hearing more from you, Melissa. Thank you. All right, Bryan Vernon, Chief Claims Officer, Aviva in Canada. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yes, I've been the Chief Claims Officer here at Aviva Canada for approximately almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years next month. It's been quite a pleasure to be here. I'm originally from the States, so I've previously worked at Liberty Mutual. I've also worked at Solera as the Global Head of Data Science and Services. So I bring not only the background around insurance and claims, but I've also worked extensively around data analytics, both operational analytics, which I think most people are familiar with, as well as more advanced analytics. And one of the things I found about Canada is, I think relative to other markets, it's not as advanced, and there hasn't been as much investment in the digital journey or in advanced analytics. Now that's changing, and I think we're at the forefront of trying to change that. We have what we call a claims moonshot, and that's to settle all first-party claims within 24 hours. You can't do that with just people alone. So we've been pushing towards what I would call a bionic claims organization, where we're trying to meld together technology and people. I don't think you'll ever get rid of people from the claims process. I think it's just at times too personal and at times too complex for it to be completely automated. So I think you need that human touch, but people can only scale so much. And so we've been looking at ways to scale people. How do we either automate things to make their jobs a little bit easier, to get rid of some of the mundane tasks that they don't necessarily enjoy doing, and we've heard loud and clear that they don't enjoy doing a lot of those mundane tasks, or to provide decision support tools. So in the flow of a conversation with the customer, can we give them relevant, timely information to help them move that process along in a way that is empathetic, but also efficient and highly effective? We've got a number of examples of that in terms of whether it's automation or decision support. The total loss tool, which we rolled out in the middle of 2019, has been a huge win. Originally not really wanted by the front line when it was first introduced a couple of years before that. And we realized in order to go on this journey of a bionic organization, you've got to bring everybody along with you. And so we've materially changed our approach and engaged our front line a lot more in that process and asked for their feedback. And it was a pleasant surprise, given all the horror stories I heard about the original attempt around the total loss tool, that people actually wanted it, but they wanted to be a part of that development process and to give their opinions and perspective on how do you implement something like that so that it feels natural and it doesn't feel clunky. So I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges for us, and I think in the industry as a whole, is how do you bring these technologies to bear while you also bring the rest of the organization and your customers along with you.
Yeah, I love that. I think back to your point that the future is bionic, that melding of people and technology, but still, there's a need for that human touch, and how do you scale the frontline team? And so looking forward to hearing you talk a little bit more about some of the problems that you've solved within this process and what the bottlenecks are. So thank you. Looking forward to it. Joel Farvalt, Head of Augmented Claims for AXA Group Operations from Spain, and I'm loving the different countries that we have represented here. So, Joel, I can't wait for people to hear what you've been working on.
Yes, thank you. So I took this position a few months ago. I joined AXA almost 10 years ago, first as head of technology innovation, and my background is mainly in tech and tech innovation and even architecture. I evolved as a chief data officer. So previously I was chief data officer of AXA International and New Market. And after I took a position as a group head of data innovation, data analytics. And at AXA, we have decided to focus particularly the claim transformation and to leverage specifically AI machine learning on transforming the claim. So that's why we have created a new department, Augmented Claim. The purpose of this department within our, I would say, research and development at group level is to accelerate the adoption, the development of AI machine learning solution for the claim. So to be more precise, first fraud analytics, but it's already something that we have invested 2 years ago, but we continue on this topic. On the second point, it's claim analytics, especially covering recoveries, bodily injury, and on the recovery, how we can also improve our recovery rate, and we are also managing all the point about getting a better control of the leakages. And the last point is claim automation. And for us, claim automation is particularly focused on two topics. One is image recognition for damage assessment and also total loss versus repair triage using pictures. And the second topic is document processing. We have on the claim process tons of document, police reports, invoices, and it's a key topic of investment for us to automate the processing of those documents.
Yeah, that's fascinating. The data analytics and the augmented portion of this, and it just reminds me of a few years ago people weren't sure what APIs were, much less AI, and now both are definitely now everyone assumes that you have an API, and AI will get there, but it must be founded on easily accessed and accurate data. I think you're working on that continuous analysis of risk data, consideration of data ownership, and I know all this is easily said, but very difficult to do. But I know
to do, yes, fully agree.
But the reality is that the path must be taken, right? So I know we'll learn a lot from some of your insight. So thank you.
Yes, and I fully agree with your point on the quality of data, the importance of data governance, but we'll discuss that the importance also to support the change for the back office team, because it's not matter or the claim team is not matter of only developing solutions, but also to support the change management. It's a key topic. That's why for us is augmented claim. It's not really replacing the full claim process by AI, but it's more to augment the claim handler.
Yep. Very good. Yeah, love it. Thank you. All right, Sean Baird. We have two Seans with us. Director ECM Product Marketing of Nuxio.
Right, and so I'm going to approach this from a slight. Excuse me. Just spilled my tea all over the place. Can you see it? Still hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Good.
Okay, sorry about that. My hands get going and
I understand.
anyway, so I'm approaching this from a slightly different perspective. Instead of the excellent insurance executives that we've got to provide industry experience, I'm going to take a slightly different approach and think about it from a technology perspective. We've already heard some great things that just kind of ring bells in my ear from Melissa and Joel, at least, talking about the importance of being able to deploy technology in a cloud so that you can access it wherever you need it. And I think this is especially important in today's time of global pandemic, when you have more remote employees, where you want to be able to facilitate customers being able to interact with you directly with your systems. So that really becomes important. And then, Joel just hit on a great point around the importance of additional documents to the process and the ability to not only access forms or reports from police reports, for example, but also to start to, and this especially goes to customers being able to participate in the process, being able to submit photos or video that help document the claim that they're making, and be able not only to support giving you those documents, being able to interpret what's in those documents and being able to analyze whether this is appropriate for the claim that they're making, what the level of damage is, and be able to gain more insights. And that's what Nuxio is about, is being able to provide that underlying content services capability, so that if you have a claims process you've already developed, like I know a number of these executives have, being able to plug that in using the APIs that you talked about, being able to provide supporting technology to allow you to manage all the important information that's going to allow you to provide more touchless and automated claims.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for helping sponsor this and making this possible for other people to, at no charge, learn about and glean some insight from our panelists. And I know towards the end, we'll have a few slides to share, right? And so to answer a few more questions. So again, if you have any questions to the audience, please share those with us. All right, so Sean Duffy, Chief Claims Officer at Skyward Insurance. I know that you are working with one of my favorite people of all time, but definitely in the insurance space, a known bulldog, Andrew Robinson. So tell us what you guys are working on.
Sure. So I've been with Skyward, which was rebranded from Higgs. Some people may have known it as that, Houston International. I joined in January 2019 as Chief Claims Officer. I had been with One Beacon for 8 years in that role before that, Great American, St. Paul Travelers, but basically in the claims space for 25 years. So at Skyward, we have a unique opportunity. As Robin said, we have a CEO who's very much embracing using InsurTech, as we're calling it, and looking at data and finding ways to leverage it. So, we're a smaller company, billion-dollar company, a newer company. We don't have, like I had at previous companies, the legacy data you had to sort through. So we have really good, clean data. And the question becomes, what are you going to do with it? And how is that going to help you understand servicing your customers, and then what the data is telling you about your trends and your development, and trying to get it all talked together. And I would say for me, in a company that until now has not been very tech savvy, I think, with these kinds of things, and we're embracing it, is you have to be careful because there's so much out there. And what is it really going to do for you if you're going to invest in this? And whether it's trying to get at all the data we have in our claim files to get at predictive modeling and to see trends, or just whether we use a particular tech service that is nice and sounds great, but then we find out our customers don't want it, particularly as a company that only writes commercial insurance as opposed to personal lines. So that's kind of the approach I'm coming at. What can we develop? What can we take? And how's it going to add value both to us and to our insurers?
Yeah, and I love that we've have the commercial insurer here on the panel. Because we want to learn a little bit more as we go the next 45 minutes. How do you convince your underwriters and agents to use the technology to help your customers? I know that's probably a challenge, and we'll want to discuss some of that. But first, let's talk a little bit more. I know COVID. There's always a lot of talk about COVID and how it's kind of forced much of the insurance world to adopt digital solutions. But would really like to ask the panelists to please provide us with a better understanding of that customer's tech-enabled journey from F&OL to claim settlement. Maybe how the claim staff are suitably integrated into tech adaptation. And at this time, who controls the claim interactions? Would it be the customer or company process? But would love to learn a little bit more, again, about that tech-enabled journey from F&OL to claim settlement. And Melissa, I'll also come back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Robin. So, as I joined American Family, it was, an adventure just trying to figure out our customer journey. And, as an industry, I wouldn't say we do it well. I think certain companies do, and there's certain technologies that allow it to, to work seamlessly. I'm not sure that once you enter into the F&OL that you have a complete journey all the way to the end to settlement. And I'm not sure that the underwriting process is connected, very well. And, you can now go purchase a policy online pretty quickly, right? 5-10 minutes, you can bind a policy. But then when they file a claim, it's very disconnected, right? So I was very focused on how do I take all of the claims knowledge I've had for the last 25 plus years and turn that into a very positive customer experience, knowing that we're all living with our competitors of Google and Amazon, right? I know people don't think they're our competitors, but they are our competitors because they have the complete Amazon effect, right? So everybody wants to be able to click, get something done, see their tracking, like move forward, right? So, I'm working for a legacy company, but we do have a ventures arm, we have an innovation arm, we have a testing team, we have a lab. So there's a lot going on of testing and learning, but we didn't always have the claims knowledge, right? You had a lot of data scientists, a lot of really smart, fun people that can do a lot of things, but they didn't always understand how the claim process worked. So we've been spending a lot of time moving everything from AWS Lake into the Google Cloud, getting Claim Center and Guidewire set up, harvesting that data, ingesting that data, architecting the data so that we can actually take all this data, push it together, and actually do something with it, right? Because it's not all about AI. A lot of it is about the customer experience and what I call that customer sentiment, right? And so that's structured data. So now we're in the world of also trying to get unstructured data through claim notes, through surveys where people can type responses, not just, canned responses, to really understand what's going on with the customer in this process. And at American Family, we have very long tenured policyholders. Some have been with American Family 10, 15, 20 years, right? But then we purchased Homesite, then we purchased Connect. Homesite was a startup, right? They do everything online. And these are very different customers. Most of them are millennial. So I have to figure out how do I put together this customer journey in the sense that we can also satisfy what I call the older generation, longer term customers that like the human touch versus the millennial that they might want to talk to you, but really they don't. They just want to send you a text or they want to get in and they want to do it through the digital process and get their claim handled, right? So it's a balance that we're trying to, to work through, but, we're using a lot of the different technologies. And as we are building out this customer journey, we're putting a lot of focus on the sentiment of the customer and how do we take all of that data from the sentiment of the customer, which is very unstructured, make it structured so that we understand when to be in the digital process and when to come out of the digital process, right? And kind of how that works within the adjuster's journey too, right? And our true mission is to take the adjuster to an advisor, right? We want to make this a much less adversarial process through the claim journey. And we do write commercial too. So we have auto and homeowners, right? So we have the personal lines, we have specialty lines where we do commercial farm ranch, and we do write GL, we do write, BOP policies, business owner policies. So we do have a component of customer, and I'm trying to figure out how to blend that commercial in with the personal and how do we, centralize some of that journey along the way. And I will tell you, the commercial is a lot harder, right, Sean? It's just very difficult because you're dealing with companies and HR folks and different people in the process. So it's a different journey, but it's been a lot of fun trying to build that out. And I've been building my team and, I'm blending a very different teams. So I'm taking IT, data science, and blending it with the business. So as we work through the agile methodology and we're building things, we're writing requirements as we build and we're delivering, right? So think about, it would normally take 6 months to get some requirements and build something. We're doing it in 2 and 3 week sprints because everybody's at the table, right? So we're moving very fast. So it's really fun because you get both points of view, you know, when you're having these scrum teams and all these meetings and the sprints. And I wouldn't say it's been easy. It's been a challenge, but everybody's now starting to understand, okay, now I see why we're doing this. Oh, now I get the vision, right? So, you know, everybody's starting to get on board and getting excited about it, which is, you know, which makes me excited because this is going to be fun when we finally get to see the end product.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think you said two things that really just came to mind here. Understanding your customer journey to begin with. How key was that to just really, you know, take a deep dive? How can you create a new process if you don't understand it? And I thought that was something that you said that's very key. And then also having everyone at the table, I think just very important. So very good. Thank you. That was great. And we have a question from the audience that I think that we can work into this as we move forward. So before we move over to, we'll ask Bryan to help answer this next, but let's talk about this question. How do we manage insured claim experience with automation when people prefer human interaction? So this is very much part of this, providing us with a better understanding of that customer's tech-enabled journey. So Bryan, if you want to help jump in and answer, that would be great.
Sure. I think there's a couple of things. First of all, I think of the claims experience, what we provide as a user interface. And if you think about user interfaces, the claims experience in that way, you see that we have the design aspect of it, right? So we can design, and so we own that, right? And so the customer doesn't own that. The customer can't change our design decisions. That said, we can be thoughtful about the customer. We can try to make our UI modular. We can try to make it familiar, and those are things that we've certainly tried to do. For example, we've moved towards texting and bidirectional text because the adoption and adherence and the pace at which people look at that and read those types of communications is much higher than the adoption of an app. It's much higher than the responsiveness to an email and things like that. So I think it's really about the design decisions that you make in terms of what do you want the user interface to be, right? It could be old school in terms of they're calling you up or they're faxing, which I don't like, but so especially commercial customers still like to do that. Lawyers still like to do that. It could be texting. It could be, and so it's really being thoughtful about what do you want that UI to look like? What decisions are you making to make it flexible and amenable to customer preference? In terms of automation, there's a ton of benefit to get from automating on the back end. We just stood up a administrative burden technology group or feature team, which we call feature teams. Some people call them product teams. It varies quite a lot, but we're looking at work that's being done that the customer doesn't see, but they might feel, because this work affects the capacity of the front line to be able to service customers directly. It affects the capacity of managers to provide coaching so that that front line can be even better. That type of automation, I think, is great. It's not going to affect the customer just because they don't know about it. And I'm talking about document ingesting, document sorting, payment processing, invoice reconciliation, control authorizations, whether it's like payment controls or what have you. There's a lot of things where AI can help out. Even some simple heuristics can help out quite a lot. And we've seen a significant lift in terms of capacity. We freed up a lot of people, and we don't think of freeing up people as just going to the bottom line per se. We think of freeing up people in terms of providing them more capacity to engage with the customer, to make those judgment calls that a computer can't yet make today. I think decision support is also something that if you do it well and you think about the flow of the conversation with customers, can come off as quite natural. We're using, I mentioned the toll loss tool. We've also invested in a technology called Cogito, which provides real-time feedback to our folks about the quality of the interaction that they're having with the customer. Nothing like draconian or anything, but just it just recognizes the speech patterns, right? And it can tell, okay, Is this an antagonistic discussion that's going on right now? Is this a nurturing, or is this a supportive conversation? Are you in sync with the customer? That's something that the customer will feel, right? Because there's going to be impact on that type of interaction, but they won't necessarily see. I think when you push work onto a customer, that's when they really feel. That's not necessarily automation, and that might be the spirit of that question. So if you're asking your customers to do work for you, some customers will like that. You know, there's certainly times when I would not want to talk to somebody. I just want to do the thing by myself because I know what to do and I want to get it done. I think it's trickier in claims because hopefully a good customer hasn't had a lot of claims, so they're not going to be really used to it. So it's not like a banking transaction or an online ordering type of transaction. Hopefully they're in unfamiliar territory. That said, there are some customers who, even in that type of situation, want to do some of the work themselves, which means, you know, select their own shop and which is great, and I think we should be supporting that. We are approaching it, as I said, from a texting perspective. So if they just want to send us a quick message, or they want to do a couple things, even potentially reserve an appraisal time or something like that, we want to make that possible. We haven't gone towards the app route yet, just because the financials, like I said, I think the pandemic is helping Canada become much more digital savvy, and people are using more digital technologies, but they're just not there like the rest of the markets that I've been exposed to, Europe and other parts of North America and South America, it's interesting, but I think we will get there. So there will be more automation, so to speak, of that kind, but you can get a lot out of automating decision support as well as back-end operations. And I think for companies that are thinking about where to start and you're worried about the customer experience, start there. There's a ton of low-hanging fruit there.
Yeah, love it. All that was fantastic. I love that you're engaging with, you know, multiple apps and working with your team on incorporating those into your process. Okay, we do have another question. Oh, go ahead.
Yes, I would like also to add one point about the question. My views also as well on how we can blend automation with a proper customer interaction or human touch. I think it's important to embed automation in a way that for the customer, automation, I would say, becomes even not perceived by the customer. So it is for the customer, and I fully agree with the point of Bryan on the importance to provide the best customer experience and the experience that is expected by our customer, which means if they want mobile app, okay, mobile app. If they want fax, why not? So to adapt, but the automation has to be, I would say, not perceived by the customer. For the customer, we still have to provide, I would say, the best way to interact with them. And behind the scene, we can use any AI, ML stuff, but has to be our, we say, internal kitchen. Has to be our own secret sauce, but not perceived. And especially when Melissa highlighted the point about Amazon, when we interact about Amazon, we don't care if behind they are using an algorithm for recommendation, if they are using machine learning for such capability. What we want is the service, and that and my point of view, the purpose that we have to keep in mind.
Yep, very good. Great points. Great points. Thank you. All right, so Sean Duffy, I'm going to put you on the spot real quick with this question from the audience. How do you manage the relationship with the broker when engaging with clients on the commercial side? If insurers are keen to get information quickly and directly from the customer to ensure a fast claim resolution, how do you work with the broker who typically would like to remain the go-between when it comes to exchanging claim information?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It really varies. It depends on the line of business. So if you're in comp claims or commercial auto, we have, you combine putting services in place that both the insureds and the brokers find of value to quickly triage claims. So on the comp side, getting those properly to the right resource to get them to the right provider. on auto, having a quick strike option to get out there in these commercial trucks and find out right away what happened. Whereas when you get into some of the more complex losses on the GL side, professional side, obviously it can be a challenge with the broker. I think it's always a question, just what kind of data do we give them? What kind of loss runs do we give them? How do we make them feel part of the process? But, you know, the point made earlier that, I mean, they still want to fax us claims and they still want to call us and, you know, trying to convince them that, I mean, seriously, it's just, I couldn't believe we still get faxes. And
I know.
so the challenge is how do you take that information from them, get it in the system and make them feel that they're part of the process, adding value, and that they know what's going on. And I think it really varies just by the line of business. But to me, it's also about, you know, what kind of information portals you create and how you share. Because I think that's always the biggest challenge when you're working with the underwriters is getting the right information to the brokers so they understand what's driving the claims without giving them privileged and confidential information that can create problems for you, that kind of thing.
Gotcha. Thank you. All right. So Sean Barrett, I believe this one would be for you. Would you please comment on how successful is your application of NLP to convert incoming documents to readable data? And has there been a success to an end-to-end processing using bots entirely, especially on low value, high frequency claims?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've had a lot of success, you know, dramatically improving the automation through the claims process. And you know, it may not be straight through processing in every case. I think that's probably a moonshot goal to take Bryan's term. But you know, I think what we're finding in reality is that we can speed a lot of the processing by adding automation, both to automate data that we already have, but also, you know, when you start adding artificial intelligence and machine learning, you can start to extract meaningful data from those documents. From forms, obviously, you can get readable information, correspondence, you can get sentiment analysis, so you can get some idea what the tenor of the conversation is. And what we're increasingly finding, from a lot of the companies that we're working with, is that they can start to extract really meaningful information from more rich media, from video or from photographs, being able to identify whether we're, what automobile are we talking about. We can extract meaningful information to get the make of the model, to understand the level of damage. And we've even seen customers kind of take it another level and start to use it where they're looking for duplication to see if there's potentially some fraud going on in the process as well. So if we've seen this picture before, but it has nothing to do with the customer or the automobiles that we're talking about, we can flag that and then make that an exception that we can route to a different process and make sure that we're handling claims appropriately.
Great. Thank you. And I'm loving these questions from our virtual audience. So thank you. We're getting quite a few, so keep them coming. All right. So the next question from the audience is, has anyone on the panel or their companies given the policyholder, when they have a claim active, access to a dashboard to map the progress? So I'll just kind of leave that up to whoever wants to answer that first.
I would say that on this topic, yes, we are on our side. We would love to get this view. Being honest, yes, it's a very fair point. Yes, we are realizing that we talk a lot about AI, machine learning, automation, but first to bring a clear view of the claim status, where the claim is in the process, and bring the clear information. On our side is being fully honest, a topic that we are still have a room for improvement, and is one of our key priority.
Yeah, Melissa, I think you had something to say as well.
Yeah, so we're actually doing that. We are actually showing the customer some mapping. It's very skinny down because we're still, we have lawyers involved that don't want to give us too much room to tell people what's happening during the life of a claim. But we've been testing with glass claims, right? Because glass claims are relatively easy. So you can test and say, all right, here's your glass claim. Here's when the person went out. Like it's almost like a FedEx or UPS tracking to kind of tell you the stage that it's in. But we're using that to test some of, all right, how do we make that more robust? How does a customer know when the claim gets filed? Is it going to an adjuster? Is it sitting in a body shop? If it's a property claim, are you waiting on a contractor? So we're playing with it. We have a, you know, skinny down version. It gives you bits and pieces of that journey, but it doesn't give you as much detail as I would like it to have. But we're in that process, and we have a queue so we can see what's going on, and you know, the adjuster can see what's going, texting and other various tools. And
yeah, I think for
the
Liberty Mutual
feedback
customers
has been fantastic. The customers absolutely love it, because then they just know where everything is and they don't feel like they have to call.
Right.
Yeah, I just want to say that for Liberty Mutual customers, that's something that I worked on when I was at Liberty Mutual, and I think we were inspired similarly by Domino's as well as FedEx. When you think about like your pizza, and I have no idea if the Domino's thing is even real. Like it could be just like you put in the oven or putting toppings on and stuff like that. I know that's something that we, you know, it's probably fake, but who knows, right? It makes you feel good. It makes it feel like there's progress. I know that we worked on something like that, and we for auto, particularly for auto. I'm not sure if it is for property, but if you're a Liberty Mutual customer and you have an auto claim, you should have that type of experience. It's definitely something that we're looking at and we're trying to do here at Aviva. There's just some legacy technology issues. I mean, our claims platform is Guidewire. Our policy systems, however, are not Guidewire, and there's something that's mainframe 20 years old. And for a lot of these things to work, and I think when you really get into the claims experience and you start thinking about how to automate the claims experience, you start to realize, oh my gosh, there's connections everywhere. There's connections with billing and underwriting and, you know, so on and so forth. And if I don't have connectivity, even like, let's even say like to pull your coverage or your deductibles and stuff like that, you want to make sure that there's a single source of truth. And typically that's the policy system, and the claim system usually inherits that information. It doesn't reside in the claim system because people are not purchasing and managing their policies through the claim system. And so I think that's one of the challenges that legacy companies will have as they start to look at automating and providing cool UI components like that is, how do we make sure that we can surface and expose all the information that's relevant, not just the claims information, but the other information that helps drive the claims process? It's definitely something I know that we're looking at, but we also recognize the legacy issues, and we'll have to overcome that hump over the next couple of years, and that's something that we're investing in before we can do that ourselves.
Yeah, you know, that you bring up a great point of having those legacy systems in place, in integrating, you know, with other systems and platforms that are out there. It's something that I've been working on myself over at Claim Central with an open marketplace. So it's very exciting. That's a big passion of mine. So I would just real quickly kind of go on to our next question here. I know I always feel like we need a lot more time. There's so much that we need to discuss here. So the next question will be, can it be said that effective claim tech integration begins at policy inception? And if so, can you provide an example of that thinking? And kind of what I'm trying to draw out here is, do we think that the best innovative path is really from that customer working backwards? So just curious. I know everyone here has different thoughts on that. So I'll start with you, Sean Duffy, on that question.
So, if I'm understanding the question correctly, whether the integration just from the issuing of the policy going forward is the way to think about it, or I was trying to make sure if I understood it.
Yeah, just, you know, trying to think of how do we have effective claim tech integration for this entire process, but would that begin at policy inception versus maybe, you know, at F&OL, like really thinking of it all the way through?
Yeah, no, I do think you need to think all the way through. And I think one of the things, you know, you start seeing is, particularly even in a company like ours where the data is very clean and very new, it's still very challenging to figure out what to do with that data and how to get it all to speak. And one of the things that we're working on is that triangle between underwriting, actuary, and claims, right? And so how do we get the data up front that we can then immediately use to figure out predictive modeling for where we want claims to go, for claims that will have more severity, claims that are going to litigation. And a lot of the information we get is at the policyholder and at the FNOL, right? Because we get a lot of information from the policy, although, it could be multi-jurisdictional type insured. So the FNOL is going to supplement that because you're going to be able to use some of that data you collect immediately to start doing some predictive analysis. So yeah, I do think it starts there, but I think as importantly, then it's, when you're looking holistically at the company's results, having the actuaries tied in as well so that they know the assumptions you're looking at as you think about how do we use data to help predict where these claims are going or to evaluate whether we're doing a good job, because obviously in the commercial space, the customer's, happiness or satisfaction is relative, right? Because we have to deny a lot of claims. We have a lot of things, coverage issues. We have a lot of damages sought, which may not be covered, et cetera. And so that experience is, I think the earlier point around a dashboard, I'd love to see that in the commercial context. It's hard, like what can you provide, but at least the agent and the insured and the claims person and the claims person manager can see. That's something that I've been talking about with my people is how do we create something like that that's accessible to everybody so that they have the same narrative, the same story. Because often underwriting's, got their stuff and claims is over here, and we're not letting agents look at the claim system because, there's too much confidential information, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think that when you look at all that together, from the moment you write the policies, when you start the first part of getting the right data.
Yeah, I like that.
Integrating that.
To that as well. I think claims can play a really big role during the sales process. On the commercial side, we have an internal law firm, and we treat it like a separate firm. We don't treat it like a legal department. And we've actually had that the head of that law firm go to pitches to commercial clients and talk about our philosophy of how to manage litigation. And it's actually won us a number of accounts, and one of the accounts actually hired our internal team to be their legal team for all their insurance interactions with potential plaintiffs. So I think if you think creatively about what the value prop is of your claims organization, you can actually partner with your distribution partners or your underwriting teams to bring that to the fore. The claims team has also worked very closely with product. We've noticed that there are some products that we sold that were very confusing to customers, and they're also confusing to interpret the coverage, right? And so the claim team came together with product to say, how can we simplify this, right? So the customer understands it, and we also understand it. We can make the right coverage decisions. And so that is not directly involved with the customer at the point of sale. However, it further down the line becomes part of that interaction. And I think it's all about setting clear expectations up front, right? We all hate when our expectations are not met. And it's very easy for those expectations to not be met if we're not clear, if we're not explicit about what the value prop is or what the product covers. Some of that for broker intermediate, and we are heavily broker intermediate or agent intermediated. That means working very closely with your brokers to educate them. Like, what are you selling to your customer? What should you be thinking about? What are some of the common pitfalls that customers have that lead to complaints both about you and about us down the road, and how can we avoid them? Getting that feedback loop, I think, is really critical as well.
Yep. No, I agree with that. Melissa and Joel, do you guys have anything you'd like to add on your thoughts there? Okay, and as a solutions provider, I wanted to kind of see what your thoughts were. You're talking about, how can you improve this integration or this experience actually at the policy inception? If you could kind of that real quick.
Yeah, I think that, the biggest takeaway I have, from our perspective and looking at this is making sure that you have a system that allows you to integrate sources of data from all the different systems that you might have going. You might have a completely different ecosystem for managing policies, for managing your claims, and so it's not necessarily possible to make that a universal system or holistic system. But if you're able to federate the information so that you have access to claims information as you're establishing your policies, or vice versa. I think that's where you start to really find synergy, and where you can start to gather insights from one side or the other of the process to help improve the efficiency of the other.
I fully agree with Sean. In the case of AXA, we have several entities that are using Guidewire from policy inception till the claim process, so covering the full end-to-end process. However, I agree with Sean. For me, it's more getting the data at all the steps of the process that is important, rather than trying to manage everything in one system. It's more the data gathering and the data capture and to set up a proper solution such as a data lake, but has to be wisely designed to make sure that we have all the data touch points throughout the journey.
Nice, very nice. Well, we have another question here from the audience, so I'll pose this, and I was going to start with Melissa, but I'll start with Bryant. So the question is, do you onboard your client and let them know how to report a claim and what coverage you have, or is this only for large commercial clients? Does this defeat the InsurTech play or enhance it, in your opinion?
So we are in a heavily broker intermediated market. So most of the interactions, I mean, we do work often with brokers to do the pitch. And there's certain elements of the work that we do that we own the distribution over. For large commercial clients, we typically do take the time to talk about what the coverages are, and even to some extent give examples of what interpretation might look like, what some of the common things, loss prevention, and things like that. It's a highly interactive type of process. I think large commercial would be very difficult to automate because it's typically not a commodity product. When you look at, when I say commodity product, I mean, if you buy standard personal auto insurance, it's fairly similar. The process that you go through to submit a claim, for the most part, is fairly standard. Large commercial, I mean, you can have weird heavy equipment that's specifically designed for manufacturing a particular type of product, and it's almost at times a one-off. And so it's usually harder to automate things like that. Now, that being said, I think there's still opportunities for leveraging AI and digital interactions, certainly for certain types of communications. But I think large commercial in particular is far off from the digital panacea, so to speak. That being said, I think small commercial, if you're looking at fairly standard commercial, we actually are trying to automate that. We're trying to make the purchase of policies online very simple and straightforward, right? And the servicing of claims similarly straightforward and at least partially automated. So I think in the small commercial space, there's a lot of potential there, and the InsurTech play is really strong there. Large commercial, it's tougher. And maybe Sean has something to say about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think, reading the question, I mean, onboarding them to me is as much about educating them about the claims process and managing to get both sort of the low touch they want with the automation available. So if you have a large commercial trucking client or an auto client, and really, the question is if they get a fender bender, they're going to want something much quicker. We just implemented a Snapsheet, which does virtual appraisals for us, no touch appraisals. They get them in the shop, they get it fixed. They want that quick. Now, if it's a crane tips over and into a building or something, there's a lot of different issues going on there, but most importantly is setting the expectations up front about and getting them to see the value of using some of the automation that we can get them, but you're still going to have a lot of hands-on play with those type of clients, but you're going to find solutions and they're going to want them as time goes on.
Yeah. So Joel, what are your thoughts there? with onboarding your client and letting them know how to report a claim?
So yes, on this point regarding the onboarding of the client, of the customer, I would say that we are trying more and more to provide all the capabilities to take care of our customer, to onboard properly the customer, providing first the right channel for them, the right type of information that may require, the type of services that they would like. So that's the way, and that's also the approach for us. And this is one of the topics that we want also to invest moving forward, is not only automation of the claim for us, but it's also providing an ecosystem of services for our customer. And that's also a key way moving forward for us of taking care of our customer, because when they are facing a difficult situation, and I used to say that the claim is the moment of truth in the relationship between the client and the insurer, it's important also to be proactive in proposing some services to our customer.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. So Sean Baird, I know you had some slides. We're eager to see what you can share with us there, please.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, let me see if I can get this working here. So what I wanted to share with you was just a bit of a success story that we had with one of our customers, and this is an insurer that was really building out a much more substantial business. So they've been a player for quite some time, but have been doing a lot of acquisition over the past few years to really grow the business and be more competitive at a nationwide level. So one of the big challenges they have, as you might expect, is that they're having to integrate a number of different systems from all these different companies, and really concerned with the ability to integrate these so that they have more consistency throughout their process. And at the same time, they were also considering, a kind of a digital transformation initiative to provide a more unified customer experience and to improve some of the cross-functional efficiencies that they have, and really enable them to become much more agile as they face competition from insurtech upstarts and other companies. So this was a C-level initiative. It was really designed to provide a common platform that they could onboard any new acquisitions they have. They can standardize their systems. They wanted to include, they had a number of requirements, like the ability to support Guidewire, to have some smart communications technology to allow more and different ways to communicate with their customers, and have a content services platform kind of sit underneath that to support all the types of documents that we've been talking about, whether it's forms, whether it's scanned documents or fax documents, or increasingly rich media like video and photos. So in terms of some of the specific requirements they have, they wanted to consolidate all of the claims and policy data, again, from a number of different legacy systems, as well as the ability to support ingestion. They're expecting to capture over 2 billion documents over the next couple of years. And in terms of the type of integration and federation requirements they have, they're replacing at least 4 legacy ECM systems, as you can see here, and they need to be able to continue to use the information that's in those repositories because that data is still relevant to future claims. So in terms of the benefits, once they implemented the Nuxio content services platform underneath Guidewire and integrated their other technology, they've been able to find some significant efficiencies for both handling claims and issuing new policies. More than anything, they've really accelerated their time to market for new products and services, which is something that we think is increasingly important in the insurance industry, is being able to react to competitive pressures or to identify new market opportunities and take advantage of those rapidly. Their customers are happier, and that obviously is a great benchmark there, and they've been able to improve their NPS score as a byproduct of the efficiencies that they've been able to find, and the new interactions they've been able to have with their customers. They've also been able to reduce their total cost of ownership. So they've been able to, by being able to reduce their dependencies on legacy technologies, to take advantage of efficiencies of being able to deploy the system in the cloud. They've been able to find real ways to lower their total cost of ownership, and they've been able to set forward a strategic set of services to enable them to grow in the future. And again, that's obviously a very important objective from a strategic perspective. And if we look at kind of some of the criteria they used to select Nuxeo, and as they were embarking on this, I think it's relevant. They were looking for a cloud deployment system, and in this case, they wanted to have one that was managed by the vendor, but obviously, you want a system that can both allow you to rely upon a vendor deployment, but also maybe you want to be able to deploy on a different platform, or take it from Amazon Web Services to Azure to Google Cloud Platform. So being able to support all those different deployment methods is extremely important. They wanted to be able to have low-code tools available so they could quickly spin up new user experiences, build new business processes, or provide new products. They want to be able to do that rapidly, so they need to have low-code tooling. They wanted to have a unified platform and API so that they didn't have to worry about the integration on the vendor side. They just need to integrate it into their existing systems. Open source and support for NoSQL was an important consideration for them. And we talked about it a few times during the past hour, but having comprehensive set of APIs so that they don't necessarily have to use any of Nuxeo's user experiences. They can make it completely headless, where they're using Guidewire and other systems to help drive the process, whether that's from a customer perspective or from the agent's perspective, but have the ability to take advantage of all the capabilities that the content services platform provided. And again, I think this is a real successful implementation, and one that's going to allow them not only to receive some short-term benefit, but really sets them up for future growth, future acquisitions, and they now have a strategic way to integrate new insurance companies as they acquire them. So just wanted to kind of introduce that to you and give you a little bit of background on the kind of value that Nuxeo can bring to insurance companies.
Well, thank you so much.
Great.
And we're almost out of time here, but I wanted to just quickly get a yes or no answer here, because we do have a quick question. I wanted to make sure we got them all in. Do you find that excluding COVID-related claims have been able, do you find that excluding COVID-related claims, have you been able to lower your overall claim count this past year? So just real quick, yes or no. I'll start with Melissa. Great.
Yes, we have.
Joel? Bryan?
Sorry, yes.
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 Yes. All right, and Sean Duffy.
Yes, particularly auto frequency. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you guys so very much.